Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP John Paz, and with me today is a former three-time WWE World Tag Team Champion, former FCW Southern Heavyweight Champion, and of course, two-time FCW Tag Team Champion. You may know him as the Stampede Kid or Tyson Kid. He's of course TJ Wilson. TJ, welcome to the
Hey,
two-man
thank
power
you
trip.
very much. I appreciate that introduction, man. Thank you.
Good stuff, man. You've done quite a lot in your career. Great wrestler. But what have you been up to? What's going on in your world?
Just been busy working now behind the scenes. I have my supplement company and just been working out a lot. And I have a ring in a warehouse about like 20 minutes from my house that I work out with people in, that I help train people. So I've been staying busy, very busy, especially as of late. I've been very busy, which is good though. I'm definitely not complaining.
Workhorse fitness, right? What's going on with that? Keeping busy,
Yeah,
keeping the
yeah, yeah,
orders coming through?
yeah. And I thought, of course, I was like, I thought it would really slow down during this pandemic, but it did fairly well. It stayed pretty good. So I think all the home gyms, everybody kept working out. But I was a little surprised, to be honest. But it's cool.
Now, this warehouse, is this like an Undertaker thing where, you get a warehouse built and you start wrestling in there, or is this a
I mean,
WB property, or is this yours?
it's not me wrestling there, but I it is like kind of similar to that. And it's been me training people and having talent come through, and either working on something, or sharpening up, or especially with this last year, it's been a good way to kind of keep ring shape without live events or working like a full-time schedule. So I think it's helped out a lot of the talent, and I think it's been fun. It's been really fun, and it's good for me. It opens my mind a lot, so it helps me in that aspect.
I think I saw Natty taking pictures there, or somebody was taking pictures, and I saw the workhorse behind you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's
Eh,
it's fun. It's a fun kind of a judgment-free zone. It's a fun place to be.
Do you own it, or is it just like a warehouse you rent
I
out?
just wear out some leasing.
So, as far as like you getting back, you're not wrestling at all, right? You're
No, no, I won't wrestle again. I'll never wrestle again. Which is, it might sound a little bit, very matter of fact, but it is for me. It's been my reality for almost 6 years now. So I've more than come to terms with it. When people hear me say that, I think they get a little like taken back, because, but I don't know, but I know myself. I know myself very well, and I just know that I'll never wrestle again, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm proud of my career. I had a good, almost exactly 20-year in-ring career, and my career is not over. It's just a different. Now I'm in a chapter two, and I'm not in the ring anymore. But I get to do everything, but besides be the person in the ring. But I get to vicariously live through all the talent. So I almost get it. I get a lot of the fulfillment. I just don't have to take any of the physical. I don't get any of the physical side effects. So it's all good.
you don't have to take the bumps and get the
Oh,
injuries, right?
no, no more.
Is that weird for you though? In a certain sense, I know you said you came to terms with it. Is that weird at all? It's like, man, I can't believe I'm not in there.
Yeah. So like obviously this is me talking to you now. 6 years after the fact almost. So of course it was a giant thing, especially for the first 2 years after my injury. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was also recovering. So it's like you have so many things going on at one time. You go from being on the road. When I got hurt, I was on the road 5 days a week. And I'd come home. I'd fly home on Wednesday, get home like Wednesday, either like late morning or early afternoon, and fly out early Friday morning. I was home for like 18 hours a week. I'm sorry. 36 hours a week, a day and a half or something. It was crazy. It was under 48 hours. I'm home every week, and then at that time also, that day and a half that I'm home, we were also filming Total Divas. So it was 7 days a week. It was a grind. It was awesome, but then and then it came to a complete stop. It just it didn't slow down. It didn't taper off. It just was a halt. And of course, it was a huge, just a huge thing to deal with mentally, physically. Like I said, I was also recovering from first off the injury. Then a few weeks later, I had the surgery, and so I'm dealing with all that all at one time. So it just takes, it's like it takes extra long for, like, if I was just dealing with like an injury, then like I could have healed quicker. If it was like, some kind of something and I just wasn't a wrestler anymore, it's like I could have maybe moved into the role of being a producer quicker. But since it's like both these things happening at the exact same time, it's like, oh, my body can only try to heal so much at one time that it just took a very, very long time to kind of to feel like back to normal. Honestly, it felt like it was a very long time. So when I say that I won't wrestle again now, I'm saying it from a very definite point of view, but I'm saying it from, I've already toyed with all of that in my mind for 6 years. So I'm not saying it from where from 2015, right after that injury, I was determined that I was going to try to wrestle again. And then you just start to get told some things and you're like, well, and you experience a little bit of paralysis. It changes everything. You changes everything in your life, and you realize a lot of things once you experience that. No matter if it's 3 seconds or a few days or whatever. I've talked to so many different people who have so many different stories of like about like a massage girl that I know that works on me. She was temporarily paralyzed falling off a mountain. So just things like that, but it was like for a few days. So like it put my like 5 or 10 seconds to shame, but those 5 or 10 seconds time stand still. So it just changes your perspective quite a bit, I feel like.
Yeah, that's gotta be scary and, just crazy. So what like, it was just Smo Joe Muscle Buster was just complete accident, he just hit it wrong, I guess?
I don't know. I don't know if it was him or me. Both. I've seen a picture where I'm in it and I have my hands are like underneath his armpits, like from underneath. So I'm already pulling quite a bit on my neck. I don't think I have my hands in the right spot, or I don't know. It was just one of those things that just like a crazy perfect storm of stuff that happened, and who knows. Um, the it sucked up. It sucked so bad that it happened. It sucked that it happened with Joe, because obviously I know there's no malice there. We're friends. We talked from that point on. We always stayed in contact. Then like post surgery, my surgeon came in and he was like, man, he's like, it's too bad about this injury. He's like, you told me you've been wrestling for 20 years. And I said, yeah, close. I said, I started my very first match in July 1995 and I got hurt June 1st, 2015. And he said, your spine's perfect. He's like, you have the spine of someone who's like never like just sat on your couch. He's like, your spine's minus that injury, your spine's perfect. So it just was a crazy, crazy freak thing. It wasn't some wear and tear. Like obviously now I have the fusion, but otherwise my spine's perfect. I've never had a back issue or anything like at any point in my wrestling career.
Wow, damn. Crazy, I guess freak injury, just, crazy, but
Yeah.
you still look like you're in tremendous shape now.
Yeah, I mean, so I quickly realized in those 2 years, well, I say quickly, 2 years, I realized in those 2 years, take the quickly out of it, that it's much harder. It's much easier to keep up than it is to catch up. So when I first got hurt, obviously I can't really work out as hard as I was prior to my injury. And I had a bunch of friends come in and visit me, which was awesome. But they come visit me, and then it's like, well, the diet's out the window, and it's pizza. It's like, well, I don't have to wear spandex, so no problem. So it's just junk food all the time, and you can justify it. So I'm trying to justify it, and then like everyone's lives move on, and then no more of like my friends coming and visiting. Like they have to go back to work and do stuff, and now I'm at home. I finally get cleared of this neck brace, so I'm able to lift a little bit heavier, but I still have to take it pretty easy. This is like September, October after my injury, and like I just remember looking in the mirror and being like, "Oh no, I'm not in the shape that I was in, not even close." And I was like, for me, I was like, this is like not acceptable shape. I got to work on this. And it took me such a long time. Like, I guess I'd forgotten over the years, just kind of everything blends together and you just kind of like whatever your current, like whatever the finished product is, you just kind of feel like, oh, this is just what I've always been, but it's not. And I forgot like how hard it was to like get to where I was and then to like now have to start back a little bit. So, I mean, I take my training very, very seriously now and I stay ahead of it and I'm not gonna let it I'm not gonna let it pile up and ignore it.
The fast food days are over.
Yes, sir. They're gone.
So in your current role, just a fan perspective, what I hear, it's like, "Well, TJ Wilson is such a great producer. He produced it. He's doing such a great job with the women." Have you heard like all this positive feedback? Because I've heard nothing but like rave reviews of you as a producer and an agent.
Oh, it's very it's so cool to see and to hear people saying that it's unbelievable. Because I mean, there's not a manual. There's not a manual for this. For example, like to train to be a wrestler, there's a lot of wrestling schools. Obviously, some are better than others. Some are awesome. Some are terrible. There's everything out there, but there is a school. There are schools out there to learn how to be a wrestler. But then to be a producer is like obviously you take what you learned as a wrestler is like a part of it. But then there's like so much more in terms of being able to communicate and convey your message and your idea and for people to understand it. And especially I'm in a little bit of a handicap, I feel like, because I have trained people before. But this is when I was younger, but I could physically get in there with them. And it kind of made things a little bit easier for me. Or it felt like it made things easier for me. I could physically show them or physically do it with them, but that's out the window now. I can't do that. All I can do to try to convey my message to you, I can walk through some things, obviously, but I can't go full out. So it's really helped me. It's made me work on my communication skills and being able to convey like what it is I'm saying. But I remember like when I did take on the role of a producer, I didn't know if I'd be awful at it or like the worst of all time is honestly what I kind of came in thinking I was going to be the worst of all time. So
Hmm.
I set my own bar really low. So at least I could hop over that one easy and kind of catch up to things. But I mean, I'm going into a room with these guys that like, these guys were all my producers when I was a talent. And it's all guys that I respect the hell out of. Jamie Noble, like I have so much respect for Jamie Noble. Dean Malenko, Fit Finley, Arn Anderson. I don't want to forget anybody. Mike Rotundo, Michael Hayes, of course. Learned so much from him. I learned so much from all of these guys. Adam Pierce. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of who were his producers when I was a talent.
Johnny Ace.
Johnny Ace. He had me a couple of times. He and I have a very good relationship, but it's funny. It's not really talent and producer. We have some other. It's not father son, but it might be some kind of uncle and maybe mischievous nephew or something. I don't know, but we have some kind of other funny relationship. Me and Johnny, very very good one. But yes, him too. He did produce. Anyway, my point being, I came into this room and I know because I'd worked with these guys how good they were, and I'd been away from wrestling for 2 years, and I came at one point I'd actually stopped watching because just as tough to watch when I've been wrestling for 20 years. And then all of a sudden I can't do it anymore. And I feel like in that moment it's been taken away from me. It's hard to watch, especially it's hard to watch full time. So uh, I obviously I do have the 20 years I put in, but it's a little bit on the back burner. And now I'm coming in as a producer, and these guys have more years as a wrestler experience than I do. And however many years as being a producer, I'm walking in. Dean Malenko's already been a producer for 15 years and a wrestler for 30 something. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So, I mean, I respect the hell out of those guys, and I took a lot of what I learned from them. And like I said, I took what I thought was maybe going to be a little bit of like me not being able to kind of show things physically. I thought was going to really hinder me, but I think me working on my communication really helped, and it's really opened up a lot for me. And I don't know, it's so hard to explain because I honestly don't know where it came from or where it comes from. It just but I have a great relationship with all the talent across the board, men and women. But obviously, lately it's really been with the women over like the last, for sure, over the last year, like straight. Like three, I've had like three men's matches maybe in like a year and a half or something crazy.
So is that Vince making that decision? Like, hey, you're doing so good with the women, and we see the women starting to main event, see the women's really starting to step up. We like what you're doing with them. Is that Vince's call?
Um, Obviously, like I think everything that ever happens in WWE comes down to Vince's
Right.
call. So that's a part of it. But I think it's just like it started with like I think they're just putting me in different things. That's what we kind of do, and you just kind of see like who kind of works with who. And I was shadowing a lot of people, like I was saying, Jamie Noble. I worked with all the producers that I worked with as a talent. I worked with as a producer. Like I remember like having matches where I'm kind of shadowing Dean Blanco or shadowing, working with Fit. And so of course I learned a lot with Fit, and I know how much Natty really loved working with Fit, and I loved wrestling Fit, as men, and I'd watch also what he was doing with the women, and just in general, Fit is one of those guys that just commands respect everywhere he goes. So it just, I don't know. Like I said, I took these little things, and just all of a sudden one day, I worked with a women's match, and then maybe the next week, and then all of a sudden, like that next week, uh, there's another women's match, and one of the girls was requesting me to be the producer, which to me at that point I'd never heard of. As a talent, I never requested a specific producer, like whoever was assigned as my producer for whatever match. Like for example, at one point Mike Rotundo was kind of like the tag team producer, so he would have a lot of my tag matches. But if I had a singles match, it might be like Ricky Steamboat or something. So but I never like requested a producer per se. I'd never been like, hey, like obviously, I mean, I have a great relationship with pretty much with most people, I think, in that I work with. But like if I were at that one point as a talent, I'd probably, if I were to request, I'd request like Jamie Noble. We just have a good relationship like that, and we have a similar wrestling sense, I feel like. And but anyway, I never requested. It never would cross my mind to request somebody. But one of the girls requested me, and then another one, and then it just kind of like it's one of those things where it's like it just snowballed. It completely snowballed, and now it's like an avalanche. And like it's its own thing now. For me, in my funny world, it's its own thing.
It's like Bret Hart requesting Pat Patterson back in the day, or so you hear like, "Oh, I want Pat to help me with this man." It's kind of like the same thing. It's a sign of respect, really.
Oh, 100%, and I don't take it lightly. I take it very, very, very seriously. I don't. I know what trust has been put into me, and I'm not looking to. I'm not looking to fracture that at any cost. So I know exactly. I take it very, very seriously, and I try to be very, very thorough with everything I do.
I also do a show with Dr. Tom Pritchard, Natty's buddy, and he was saying he was the producer and he stunk. One of the greatest trainers ever, if not the best. Said he
I mean,
stunk as
yeah,
a
hands down the
And he
best.
said he stunk as a producer. He said Ted DiBiase, he loves Ted, but he said Ted kind of stunk at it for whatever reason. Obviously, Ted might be one of the greatest ever.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said
yeah.
it's weird how some guys, he goes, they just gravitate it and are great at it.
Mm-hmm. He's right. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it with coaching, and I think there's a lot of similarities in coaching and being a producer. I think it's very closely related. Um, and I've seen some great, great, great wrestlers, but they almost can't explain to you what makes them great, and that's cool. There is nothing wrong with that. That is cool, but like I mean, I don't like for example like I don't know if like Ricky Steamboat, maybe he can. I don't know if he can tell you exactly what made him like so cool, and Ricky Steamboat and this crazy match with Macho Man, and what made me as a kid think, man, Ricky Steamboat's cool as hell, blowing the fire and stuff. Like
Right.
there's certain charisma or certain things you might do that you may not even, they might be almost like just second nature to you, then you might not really be able to always coach them. I've seen great talent. I have seen great talent not really be the best coaches. And I have also seen people that weren't very good, that didn't like that physically didn't get that side of wrestling. And there are so many sides to wrestling, but they couldn't physically, physically weren't a good wrestler, and yet be awesome coaches. And I've seen that multiple times. So I mean, you're gonna kind of see everything, and just because somebody you watch on TV is either awesome, you feel they're awesome, or they're not. That doesn't mean it would. It might completely translate over, and it might be total 180 for both guys. For example, it's so funny. But Dr. Tom is one of the best coaches, if not the best coach. The only other coach, I mean, yeah, it's Dr. Tom. We learned so much from him. I just listened to Kurt Hawkins talking about everything he does at his school is stuff he got from Dr. Tom and FCW. So, I mean, same as same as my rig. It's all Dr. Tom stuff. So, makes perfect sense.
That's why those Wrestle Pro boys are doing good. MJF and Mark Sterling, all that. That's because they're two or generation, whatever, split from a Dr. Tom school. Yeah.
But basically a Dr. Tom school, in theory, if it was franchised out, that's what it would be, a Dr. Tom school.
It is great though, like as far as you being a producer and you've been able to connect and people wanting you to do the matches. So what does like the producer do as far as like do they get the credit for the matches? Do they just have to put the matches together? Like how does that kind of work for the producer and the wrestler?
Depends. Was the match really good? Then then
Yes.
then then, then the producer doesn't get the credit. But
Hmm.
were you not happy with it? Then I might get the credit. Now I'm just messing around.
Gotcha.
So I go to the day. My day will start with a production meeting, and then kind of figure out what we're doing on the show, and then from there, I always say this, like my marching orders, but it's not really marching orders. We kind of debate and throw ideas around. It's all a creative process. We debate and throw ideas around. Then once I finally get like the finalized version of what we're going to do that night, I leave the meeting. Then I find the talent, which, like I said, for the last year and a half, has just strictly been the women. Then we then like you know we then the for me the fun part begins, where we put this thing together, and we paint this canvas with whatever we want to paint it with. Obviously whatever has been laid out that day, it goes by those parameters, but the others, but then outside of that, and sometimes it's more confined and constricted, and sometimes there's a lot more leeway. It just depends on the day. No 2 days are the same here in WWE. It's a lot of days can be somewhat similar, but no 2 days are ever exactly the same ever. Um, and that's like when it's a lot of the leeway is that's when I have my most fun, and I think the talent does too. And it's just fun to sit and create with people and try to, like I said, we're starting with a blank canvas. There's nothing on that canvas. And then it's whatever ideas we come up with and decide to do. And it's truly art. We really we're creating art, and it's cool for me to then like as the talent go out through the curtain and go to perform this. It's so awesome to watch that. But I take this back. So the best moment I said was the creating. That's the second best moment. Then the third best is them going out. And that's the third. Then the best is when they know they've done a great job and they come to the back. That's number one by far. It's unbelievable. And when you have it's those moments won't happen. Those the big crazy ones won't happen every week, but when they happen, it's you'll never forget them for the rest of your life. And those moments as the talent come through Gorilla that I've had are way bigger than anything I experienced in my own in-ring career.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have a great connection, and it's been a blast. It honestly has. If it ends right now, and this is the peak of it, then I've had a hell of a run in these 4 years, and I'll take it. I'll take it, and I'll run.
And we recently saw Natty and Tamina. They had the cameras back there. They're crying as they come through the curtain, and obviously you played a big part in not them winning the tag titles, but you played a big part
Yeah,
in the match.
yeah, and it was really cool to see them come together, and to see. Timing was just hilarious. It was 10 days shy of Tamina 11-year anniversary or 11 years of being called up to the main roster. So it just was 10 days shy. And it's in the exact same building where the Hart Foundation won their first tag team titles against the British Bulldogs. Of like so much like generational stuff involved in this. Then you have Naya is in the match too. She's in that Samoan like so. I mean, there's so much generational stuff just in that one match. If you really break and in that building, and it's crazy. It was yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was such a fun journey, and it's still going on, obviously. But just that first ride, and then I think maybe they didn't want to believe at the talent, maybe Natty and Tamina, but I think they in the back of their minds thought at WrestleMania and not winning on night 2 was maybe as high as it was going to get. And but they were wrong. So it's awesome. It was awesome. I was glad. I was really glad to see. It's like I said, them winning it at that SmackDown. I told Natty this was kind of cool because obviously it would have been awesome in WrestleMania 2, and that's fine. It didn't happen that day, but a few weeks later on SmackDown, it kind of like they had the big pyro and they had like their own moment. It didn't get lost in the rest of the show, and like I said, and then it just happened to be in that exact same building, which is just so bizarre. Just like I mean, I guess you can, but nobody thought to write that. It's just crazy. It's just weird, almost destiny and life just doing its own thing.
Yeah, a little happenstance there. Yeah, that's interesting how that kind of worked out.
Yeah, big time.
So when you're like producing the match and stuff, if they let's say do something in the ring like that you didn't want to do, or like, oh, that we didn't plan on you doing that, or where did that come from? Do you say anything to them? Like, does Vince say anything? Like what? How does that kind of happen?
Yeah, I mean that happens sometimes. Sometimes, I mean, this is it's like for me, it's hard to rate somebody as a wrestler if they don't have to be here, but as they have to at least come through WWE at some point. Just because I've wrestled a lot of places, and I know that like WWE is the only place I've ever been where you can be standing on the other side of the curtain, getting ready to go out, and right before you go out in your 3-minute match, you just already lost 2 minutes, or you got 4 minutes added, and then your music hits, and now it's which if you're capable enough, that's fine. But now you're either adding or subtracting on the fly on improv, and you're walking out in front of however many people watching at home and how many people are in the arena. So it's just crazy. So it's hard. Like there's so much there's so much of that happens, especially on live TV. There's so much that happens that if there's something that wasn't planned that happens, a move or something, it's usually not a big deal. Especially for the most part. Like I said, I usually it'll be done well. I really believe in the talent. So I would never be too worried about that.
As far as you producing, did you think like you were going to become this like natural at it? Because like we were kind of saying before, it's one of those things you never know. So did you think like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get this, or you're like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this?
So I guess like where I would have like where the part of me would have kind of believed in myself is that like I said, I did train people before. I trained kids when I was younger. But again, I was physically able to demonstrate and show and do it with them, where this is not that. So like no, I definitely didn't think I was going to be very good at this. I thought at best I might be all right. I might finally get the hang of it and be okay. And I had everybody helping me. I had everybody helping me. I mean, everybody: Johnny, Jamie, Noble, Dean, all the guys I named, all like really went out of their way to help me out and kind of show me everything. Like show me kind of like the way to do it, but then also show me like, hey, but like, look, this is the way we kind of had to learn it. Like, look at all this stuff we kind of had to do wrong to figure out kind of where we are now. Things like that put a lot of things in perspective for me, but. Honestly, off the bat, no. I thought it was gonna be awful at this. I can clearly remember my first days at Staples Center in LA, and I don't have a match. I don't have any like assignment. That's my first day. I'm in a production meeting, and then I'm seeing people that I haven't seen. Some of them I haven't seen in 2 years. Some I had never met before, and some, I talk to regularly. So, I'm having all types of different levels of conversation my first day. But I can clearly remember there's it's so funny. It's so funny that how this all ends up snowballing with you, like knowing the story now, like where I'm at right now. But that first day, it's a women's gauntlet match, and I think like Sasha and I are the last two, something like that. And Sasha asked me something like runs an idea by me and asked me if it makes sense. And the truth is, I was so, like I said, away from wrestling for 2 years that it almost sounded like speaking alien to me. I almost didn't know what the hell she was saying to me. So I just said, yeah, yeah, it sounds good. I didn't even really know what I was kind of co-signing, or I was like, oh no, like this, I honestly, so at first I really thought this was going to be really bad. I thought maybe I might end up almost being like an assistant coach or something, maybe at NXT at the PC, something. Honestly, I thought this was not going to go very well whatsoever.
And you've settled in, you transitioned very well. Not that Sasha was never great. I mean, she's always been a good wrestler, but it feels like lately, since you're kind of working with the woman a lot and working with her a lot, really stepped up her game. Do you ever get like to yourself, like give yourself a little credit, like, man, these girls are really stepping up big time.
I try not to. I don't want to take credit for anyone else's work. I just think some people work well together, and I think sometimes I don't know if it's like I said, like a coach relationship or something. The truth is, I try to get her to do like my matches, like what I think I would almost do in this situation. And then a lot of times she has like her own really crazy ideas that are like I'll just all the girls, all the girls honestly, they'll come up with like I'll kind of like we'll be kind of like I said collaborating, and I'll leave them and I'll come back. Like I'll go get some food or something. We'll take a little break, come back, and all of a sudden they have like all this wild stuff. Like I drove to Amway. Um, it was when it's a crazy day because like we knew it was going to be a big day for them emotionally, but it's the day when Bailey turns on Sasha, and I mean, you just never know what people's mindset is going to be. Like, how do they feel that day physically? Anyway, I just remember pulling up to the building, and I saw Naya, and she told me that she wanted to take a power bomb off the ring apron, and I was like, "Wow, what? The what?" But then once she said that, it's like, okay, then like I have so much trust in the girls, where I was like, where'd you come up with this? Like, what? Anyway, and then it was awesome. I love that match. I'm a big fan of that tag match. One of the matches I've been very, very proud of that I was a part of. But I never will take any credit for. I'll never take any credit for the talent's work. I think. I think. I think all wrestlers. I think the women just a little bit more than the guys, but I think all of us in general, we're all built on confidence, and I think it's just a matter of keeping that confidence high and just keeping in that moment, keeping everybody on track. And I think so far, so good, so great.
To me as a fan, it's like you see the improvement of a Bailey, of a Sasha. Not that they weren't good, but you just see the improvement, and then you always hear that you're working with them. You're doing the Royal Rumble. You always hear that. So it's got to be your influence is definitely helping them. Whether it's like a Belichick Brady thing, you know what I mean, or not, your influence is definitely helping them.
There's something, and I don't know, they vibe off of it, and so it's cool. It's unexplainable. I don't know how to. Like I said, so I've gotten better at my communication skills and explaining like, but this I don't know. I can't really put a word on that. I can't really describe it. It's so I don't know why I don't know why we've kind of figured out this formula.
Were you always a fan of women's wrestling, or is this something new and different for you?
No, yeah, I've always been a fan. I had a big hand in training Natty and helping her out in wrestling. Uh, both of us helping each other, but I trained Natty, especially up front. And I always enjoyed like teaching her in a way that like at that time for 2001, 2002, I was trying to teach her more of like at that point more of like a men's style, but now that's just the style, which is awesome to me. That's what I love about it. And so I've evolved also as women's wrestling has evolved, and I've always been a fan, but no, I'm not at the level that I'm at now. Now I'm a bigger fan of women's wrestling than the women. I think I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I mean, I really pay attention during the women's matches. For honestly, if it's on my TV, whatever company, I pay attention because I'm just curious to see what all the other women are doing around the world.
Now, you said before Dr. Tom, the best trainer ever. I don't know. Your family lineage technically might say it might be Stu Hart, right? Technically,
Yeah.
you're the last graduate of the Hart Dungeon, right?
So I guess I meant Dr. Tom is the best for what I would
Current,
call
yeah.
or coin as WWE style.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean definitely. Stu and Bruce Hart and Ross Hart. I'd be foolish if I don't mention them. They trained me so much and so many hours in the dungeon, or if the weather was nice enough in that ring. That was the best time when that ring would go up outside. You'd be like, oh, thank God. No more like bumping down here in the dungeon where like everything, you got to learn how to fall right because everything hurts down there. When you're 15, 16, everything really hurts. Like I recently just saw a picture of me. I think I might be 17 or 18, and it's with like I sent it to my friends. I said, "Yo, look at the guys." I sent it to these kids that I train with now. I said, "Look at these guys I trained with," and it was like not every guy was, but there were some big guys. I remember being thrown around by like 300-pound guys, and you're just thinking like, okay, it's March. Unfortunately, we're in Calgary, so there's still snow on the ground, but it's getting close, and soon we'll be able to set that ring up. And it's just the ring's just that much better than getting thrown around in the dungeon.
Are you technically, as a shoot, the last graduate of the Hart Dungeon?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. I was there the day I was there the day when we tore it down, when we pulled the mat up, and I was absolutely shocked to see how thin the padding was. Number one, like well, I say shocked, but kind of not really. But what I was shocked is when we pulled the padding off, and you realized like it just was these little like wooden slabs, like to elevate just barely above like this like cement or like linoleum, like this super hard floor, and it's just these little wooden slabs, just like barely, and then the padding, and then the classic green canvas over top. It was it's so crazy to think like I was wrestling on that thing like 3 times a week since I was like 16. Because actually, at my first match, then I started training the dungeon. Like we were just kids messing around at first, and then we kind of got invited to the dungeon, and then it was on from '96 to '04, so 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
The main trainer was Bruce Hart.
yeah. Bruce and Ross both were like pretty equal, pretty consistent. There's pretty much the two of them every time. Both helped me on so many things. Ross was the first guy to really help me understand the psychology of wrestling, and I can remember it clearly. I just asked him in the van if we're driving to some show in Alberta, and I just asked him like to the most basic way, can you please just explain this to me? And I might have been 17 or something, and he was explaining it and explaining like that was maybe the first time, not just explaining it in broad strokes, but a little bit more detailed, and that really helped me out. Bruce was always very good for coming up with like exciting stuff, and like he was always big on trying to build up character and build up. Bruce was pretty good at seeing both sides. He understood the technical aspect and he understood the entertainment aspect, and he usually was trying, the best he could to kind of combine the two. And not, it was a different time, but yeah, I thought those they both helped me so much, though, really, really did. And then I had a Japanese trainer that Ross hooked me up with, Tokyo Joe, and that I mean, obviously I give Dr. Tom a ton of credit, but without Tokyo Joe, like I never even sniffed WWE. So I owe everything to him, Tokyo Joe.
Japanese Calgary connection, right? I mean, they always had those great Japanese guys came in and through that area. It's crazy.
At one point in like the '80s, they had so many Japanese guys that that they started, like they used like one as like a Korean guy or a Mongolian or something, and they started using a couple as like Native American wrestlers at that point. Um, uh, one guy's name was Sonny Two Feathers. He's actually a Japanese wrestler. He wrestled in New Japan, and I wrestled him. He's wrestling in Stampede Wrestling in the '80s as a Native American, and just there were so many. But like, it's funny if you think about it now, just like, damn, there's a lot of crazy, awesome talent in Calgary. So much great talent has come through there. But again, like just like those, like Liger was there, Kensuke, like a lot of awesome Hirohase, a lot of great Japanese wrestlers, Mr. Hito, trained Brett and stuff. So I mean, it just like you said, it's just this crazy connection that like went on even through me. Like then I started going to New Japan in 2002 because of Tokyo Joe. So like it was carrying, and then Harry went, and Rick Victor, and he's from like a little outside of Calgary, but he's
Apocalypse.
yeah,
Yeah.
Apocalypse, Calgary guy. The world hasn't been able to see how good he actually is. He's actually one of the best wrestlers that I've ever wrestled.
Just always remember him early on, like thinking, like, man, obviously he became big as the Ascension, but like I was like, man, this guy's gonna make it. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
I don't know, they make him shave his head and his beard, and all that stupid stuff that happens to the guys along the way.
yeah.
So who else was with you? Was Teddy with you? Teddy Hart? As far
Yeah,
as
of
when you
course.
were back there training?
That's how I got caught up in all this in the first place. We went to school together. Um, we were in fourth grade together, and I like avoided them. We weren't really friends. We were in fifth grade together, and same thing. I think we were a little bit similar, both real small, but I think both very mouthy, trying to kind of offset the size thing. But then, so I always kind of was thinking, oh, he's like the bad kid, and try to avoid him. And the way our fifth grade teacher had the class, like he just had a weird setup. He had two desks beside each other, facing two desks. It was all in blocks of four. And Teddy and I had a mutual friend, or two mutual friends. In the end of the first day, I remember like Ted left, and then I moved my desk a little bit. No, my friend's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Nah, I want to get away from him. I think he's trouble." So I moved my desk. My friend moved his desk. The other friend moved his desk. The next morning, Teddy came in, saw like his desk a little bit off to the side. Then he's like, "Man, I think the janitor messed up and didn't push my desk back in." Then pushed his desk back into this little square, and I was like, "Well, I guess I can't get away from him," and like just gave in. And then he kept inviting me to his house and told me he lived in a gym. And when you're 10 years old, a gym isn't like a workout gym. A gym is like a gymnasium with like in Canada with floor hockey nets and basketball hoop. And so I remember, and he sold me on it because he kept saying that he had an ice cream shop, which he did. It was a part of the gym. And so I come to his house. I went to his house, and I realized it's this hardcore weightlifting gym in Calgary that has like a ton of bikers. It was wild. It was funny, and it was in downtown Calgary. And good old BJ's gym is fun. I had so much fun there. I ended up spending the next like 25 years there, like the in and out. It was just funny and just so funny. Like, where did that come from?
And I guess you guys probably lost connection today, right? I mean, he's got his problems and issues. I guess you probably don't talk to him anymore,
Oh,
or maybe you still do.
I still talk to him. We still talk. I hope that whatever it is, uh, you know, I just hope he can get everything figured out, legally and otherwise. I don't know. I would like to see him. I'd like to see him enjoy and have like a relaxing, second half of his life.
He was the youngest guy ever signed to WWE ever. He's 18, or as soon as he turned 18, they
Yeah,
signed him. So it just shows
yeah.
you the potential.
I saw him unbelievable potential. I remember him. I went with Davey and Harry and Diana and Georgia to England for that summer, like a little family vacation. They invited me to come with them, and Teddy was doing his tryout. And I remember coming home because this is 1998. This is like Davey had a cell phone, but it's like not like now. And so I'm like, I don't hear anything about this, and we're gone. We were gone for like a month. So finally, then I remember coming back to Calgary and like first question I'm asking is like, I remember maybe it was Ted's parents pick us up from the airport actually when we land, and I was like, "Hey, what happened with Ted Trout?" And then they're like, "He got a contract," and I was so excited for him. And then I remember running into him shortly after, and he explained everything to me, and said, goes back to Dr. Tom was the guy there too.
Yeah, just crazy. And I remember 2003. Obviously, he had his problems and ended up getting released out of his contract, and maybe he was too immature and all this other stuff. But Bolo's potential. But 2003, I was at a Ring of Honor show in Philly, and you wrestling Teddy at Glory by Honor in the little crappy Murphy Rec Center.
You're at that show?
Yes, great show.
That is so funny, man. That is so funny. Yeah. That was fun. I remember Teddy's dad asked, Ring of Honor wanted to book Ted, and then his dad wanted me to wrestle him or something, and then so I just got flown in to go wrestle Ted. I just finished like my first 3 tours of New Japan in like the 6 months, and then I just come home in June, and then that's September. I remember talking to Daniels, and like it was crazy. It ends up not happening, but at that point, we're both supposed to start going back to New Japan a lot again. Like Daniels, I think was teaming with Brian, and he said I was supposed to team with this other guy from Calgary named Dave Swift, who's wrestling. He won tour in New Japan as the Swifter, and then like I remember New Japan calling my coach and just saying like they're like, okay, next tour. And they'd always like put it out 2 tours, and then it'd be like, no, the one after that, no, the one after that, and that went on for like a year. And then I was like, man, I get it. If you're trying to figure me in, at that time I'm 23 years old. That's cool, but man, like just don't tell me, yeah, you're gonna be like, just don't string me. Let's just say, hey, we're not sure, we don't. Maybe in a year, we don't know. Just at least it would have sucked, but then it'd be at least ripping the Band-Aid off instead of like prolonging it. Yeah, I remember doing that ROH show, and it's funny because I only did the one, but I remember they had a big meeting and they were talking about how it was the last show at the Murphy Rec Center. So I knew it was the last. I remember like someone asked me, I forgot that it was Glory by Honor 2, and I was like, I don't remember the name of it, but I know it was the last show at the Murphy Rec Center. So I always knew that for whatever weird reason.
Crazy. They had to pay off like the fire inspector because there was so many people in there and it got so damn hot. It was just crazy. So they had to go to the National Guard Armory the next time around. And obviously that holds a couple thousand people. So you don't have to worry about all that stuff.
Yeah, it was hot. I remember it was so hot. I remember coming upstairs after and watching the main event. Samoa Joe, right? He's in the main event.
Yeah, Chris
Yeah.
Daniels. Yep.
And I remember there's the thing where the ref where they ring the bell by accident. Anyway, I just remember like standing up there watching through this curtain or something, or from the back or whatever, just being like, "Oh my god, it is so hot here! I can't believe how hot it was."
That place was it was a horrible place, but that's what happened.
Such a cool atmosphere, though. It really was.
The fans were awesome.
Unbelievable.
It's one of those things. Like even the ECW arena, if like people have not been there, it's like it's not that great. You know what I mean?
I went there just to hang out. I think Hawkins was doing a show, and I just was hanging out with him in New York. And we went up. It was at the arena, and so that's the only time I've been there. I think there was a convention earlier in the day, but I'd never been there before. So it was like it was cool to at least step foot in it. I've never wrestled there, but it was very cool to experience it a little bit.
They cleaned it up big time. Back in the day, it was a mess, but they cleaned it up.
Imagine, man.
But as far as you getting signed to WWE, I mean, we mentioned Teddy. How did you get signed? I mean, they had to have their eye on you for a long time.
Yeah, like there would be funny little contact here and there, but nothing ever really. Like I remember, I ended up getting signed in the fall of 06, but I remember one time Harry texted me and was like, "Hey, WWE wants to talk to you. I think they said they want to like offer you a developmental deal. They can get you a developmental deal right now if you want to do it." And I was like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "Well, I want to still wrestle in Japan a little bit more." I said, "Okay." And I was like, "Well, maybe I should go to developmental and see what kind of develops there." And then like never heard back. It was funny. So, but then so it'd be like you said, like somewhat on the radar, but not overly, and it would kind of drop off. Anyway, trying to think. Oh, we went to Hall of Fame with Brett, WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. And that weekend, Harry got signed. And then Carl DeMarco was talking with myself and Natty. He was talking to me. Natty was actually recovering from, she torn her knee in Japan prior, in the fall prior to that. And so Carl was talking to me about a possible tryout, and I remember he was calling me and stuff after, like we had a good talk at WrestleMania that weekend in Chicago, and then he called me a few days after and was talking about, I put together some highlights. He said they were good. He liked it. He just said that it's a bit of a hard sell because of my size, but he said like he asked me like, can you stay busy this summer? I said, yeah, no problem. I said, if you want, I can go to England right now. Probably, I have a good relationship with Brian Dixon at that time. I could probably call him up and head over there. And he said, yeah, that'd be good. Like, it would look like I'm busy and it looks like I'm doing a lot of. I said, yeah. I said, man, I'll go. I ended up being there for 9 weeks. I'm there for 63 days, and we did 56 shows. We did so many shows.
Oh.
But that's what Brian Dixon does. He does a ton of shows. It's fun, but you're busy. So I was like, okay, you want me to be busy? Yeah, I can't be much more busy than going there. So while I was over there, then Carl called me and told me that the tryout was set for the first week of October. And he told me he had funny advice. He said, I talked to him when I came home. I flew back home from England in September, and I'm home for 3 weeks, and I go do my tryout. And when I talked to him when I was home, he said, hey, make sure, it was very funny advice. He said, make sure that you're not going to get any bigger, so just be as lean as you can, which is fine. He's like, be as tan as possible and out wrestle everyone. Okay, man. So I remember going and getting a spray tan for the first time, like, all right. And then as far as the out wrestler, when I tried to hold up that end, but I just remember that tryout. I went in on a mission. Just, I knew, maybe I would have ended up being wrong, but I went in with the mindset that this was, that was my only tryout. So in my mind, it was my first and last tryout. In my mind, I was 26. The company's changed a lot, but in 2006, I was 26 years old. It was almost reaching like the stage isn't, 28, a little old, whatever. 30, oh no. So anyway, I remember going in like on a mission, like, all right, I have to kill this. I can't let this slip through my hands. And I did my absolute best. And Dave Taylor, I walked in on the first day, and Dave Taylor, like, I walked in so nervous. I didn't sleep the night before. And Natty's there too. I'm so scared. And I go walking in, the first guy I see is Dave Taylor when I open the door. And I've wrestled with Dave in England and teamed with him. And there were 2 days where he kind of like, he kind of ran like 2 little training sessions completely on the fly. And I took part in both of them, and did a lot with him. And I really like Dave. He reminded me, he has some similarities to Davey Boy. Something in their sense of humor, or something about him kind of reminds me, obviously, more than just the English connection. But so as soon as I walked in, he's like, TJ, and then I was like, oh, I wasn't so scared anymore. I still was really nervous, and I still obviously planned to do my best. But seeing Dave really helped me, and he really looked out for me during that tryout. I remember like we do this little jogging around the building to warm up, and Dave's practices were very different than Bill's practices at this time. Dave's were a lot more technical and a lot like doing drills. Bill's were more doing drills, the blow-up drills. So we're doing this little jog to warm up, and Dave said, hey, TJ, you're supposed to do the afternoon class as well? I said, I don't know. I said, just the email they sent me here, told me to be here at 9 a.m. He said, hey, you should probably do the afternoon class, because even if you're not scheduled for it, it'll look really good. It'll look like you did both classes every time. I said, no problem. I came there with Carl's advice in mind. I was there to out wrestle everybody, not in a greedy way, but those guys had jobs that I wanted one too. Remember, Dave goes and finds out, and he comes back. He said, no, he's like, I talked to Bill. You don't have to come. So like same as like when I became a producer, and I said everybody looked at, like, Dave was really looking out for me, and I was so happy that like I'd been to England. the year prior and like spent some time with him. And the first guy I did like a drill with was MVP, funny enough. And so it just was it was a cool experience. But I remember Dave Taylor telling me at the end of the tryout, he said, "Hey, Bill wrote a very, very good email. He's like, I've never seen him write such a nice email about somebody." So he's like, expect the call, but then like I don't get one the next week or the next week. And we all want everything now. So I just remember thinking like, oh my God, even I think I killed it as best as I could in that moment. And Dave told me Bill loved it and they're still gonna pass. Damn. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then Mike Bucci called me literally the next day. And it was cool. It was very cool. I just couldn't believe it was real. Couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. But like I said, those 4 weeks waiting to be signed after Dave kind of telling me like, hey, I'm pretty sure you're going to get signed. Those 4 weeks, time really dragged on. But then
felt like forever, yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it really did. Anytime I'd get like an unknown name call me, I was like, I think it's it. And then it'd be the opposite. It was absolutely not that. It was not, it was someone I didn't really want to talk to.
So would they send you to Deep South or FCW?
Yeah, I ended up going to Deep South. And I'm there for like I'm finally there for like a month. And then the other really, really cool thing for me is I wrestled Kofi in my tryout. October 5th. I don't want to mess this up, but it's literally October 5th. The 6th confused me. October 5th, 1996. We wrestled WWE live event in Calgary, and then October 5th, 2006, I wrestled Kofi my tryout. Exactly 10 years later, like a lot happened in that decade. I spent a lot of time wrestling and a lot of time working on my craft in that decade. And a decade's a long time. And just so funny to me that it happened to be exactly 1 decade later. And then, so I ended up going to Deep South. And I'm there for about a month. But at this time, the change has already happened and Dr. Tom's the trainer. And then I've actually, at this point, I teamed up with Dr. Tom once on an indie show in Washington State. So at least know, like me coming in, I at least know the trainer. And then Tom was awesome from the beginning. And I've never had anything that you could even call somewhat of half of a negative experience with Dr. Tom. So, I mean, my time in developmental, I really loved it. Dr. Tom, Steve Kern, Norman, because I'm there for a month, then it shuts down. And we were just we're all hanging out in McDonough, Georgia for like a month. Then we get the news to go down to Tampa.
Yeah, it was weird, like the way it just shut down, right? Just like boom, Deep South is done.
Dude, it was like, hey guys, come back tonight at 6. There's a meeting. All right. And so this time I'm brand new, and the dress code's like so crazy, like you don't want to mess up. So like we're there, and we all come in biz cash. And then Johnny comes walking out. He's like, hey guys, we're shutting this place down. And then he's like, all right, so let's get this taken down. And then like we all kind of sit there, like everybody's kind of like, what does that mean? And me especially, I'm like I said, I'm 4 weeks in. I don't know what's happening. And then he's just like, guys, I said, let's get this place taken down. And I'll never forget it. Hawkins and Ryder like stand up and rip down one of these giant banners that was up on the wall. Like it's just a big poster. And then it became like Lord of the Flies. It became Lord of the Flies after that. It was, and then it just was like not demolishing everything, but I mean, then we took everything apart and got it out of there. It was so nuts. I just remember being covered. The reason I mentioned this guy, I'm wearing these like khakis. I just remember being like covered in dirt. We're taking down rings, man. I'm covered. I had a white polo and these like beige khakis. I'm covered, so dirty. And then it's like, hey guys, we're all gonna go eat now. And I was like this. Am I allowed to wear like shorts? Man, it was crazy. It was so crazy. It was fun. It was my time in developmental was fun. I mean, FCW, I had a blast. Norman Smiley, Dr. Tom again, Billy Kidman taught me so much. Steve Kern. I love my time in FCW. And it's not one of those things that I loved it now when I look back in hindsight. I loved it in the moment. I didn't go to college. I just wrestled. I just wrestled since right before I started high school. I just been wrestling. FCW I was there for like a little under about 2 years, close. But I don't know. I just look at it as though like I was a little bit older, but I look at it as like my college. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot there, and that was where I first started working with Dusty, and later on developed, and I worked a lot more closely with him, but it started there in FCW.
Good stuff there. FCW, kind of untapped as far as just obviously moved on to NXT, but just really, I know they had that small documentary on WWE Network, but there's so much more they could, because so many guys came out of there. It's crazy.
So many. I mean, Sheamus, look at Drew. Drew's from FCW. And he's also in OVW. And I wrestled him. I knew him in England before when he's 19 years old. And Sheamus too. I met both of them. Wade too. All three of them. I remember they're like, hey, what do you think? Like, what do you think we have to do? I only kind of met Wade like my last day there before before I left for my tryout. But I knew Sheamus and Drew. I was with them a lot, and I was like, guys, like, all you have to do is just be seen. Look at how tall you got. Look at what you guys look like. You guys are, and they're, like I said, Drew's 19 at that time. I'm like, dude, you're gonna be more than fine. Believe you guys are, and they're very talented. On top of that, so it's easy. I knew, like, okay, once you guys are seen, you'll be all right. And then I remember Sheamus calling me. I was in McDonough, Georgia, and Sheamus called me and told me he got offered a contract. I can remember clear as day Sheamus calling me. So it's very funny.
That's great. But when you get called up and you're going through FCW, is that like a Johnny Ace thing? You get called up and here's the plan we have for you? Like, how does that whole thing like go for you? How does that come about?
So with me, so everyone has, I think, a little bit of a different story. So there's a lot of different ways you maybe find out or get told. So Kidman at this point was working on the road on the main roster, and then he's doing TVs, and he's coming back down to FCW on his other days when he's not on the road. I remember he came in the FCW and he said, "Hey, I think you're debuting next week." They mentioned in the meeting with Natty on ECW as your manager. I said, "Wow, okay." And then I was very excited. Obviously, I said, "What else?" I remember being like, "What else?" I said, "What else?" And he's like, "Well, nothing else." And now that I've been in these meetings, I understand it, but it's just so funny. I'm like, "No, they must have said something else. One more word." Anyway, then right behind him was Fit Finley and Arn Anderson, and we had to do matches in the arena. I remember I wrestled, and literally the match ended. I wrestled, and the match ended, and the second it ended, they both like stood up and said they hated it. I was like,
messing with you?
no, they were serious. They didn't.
Oh
They
wow.
didn't match, and I'm just laughing because like an hour prior, I'm getting told I'm getting called up. Now these two producers just told me that this match sucked, and I was like, huh? And I just was like, oh no. I remember thinking, I'm not getting called up now. Like, that's over. And then that night or that evening, one of the female writers at that time for ECW called me and said, hey, so we're gonna bring you to the TV this week. And I just remember in my head thinking, still, even after they hated my match today, like, damn, she doesn't know yet, is what I thought. But I was like, oh, okay. And then I remember I get to TV on that Monday. We're in Oakland, and Arn Anderson calls me into the ring and in the day, and he told me, he said, "Hey, I want to see you get some heat on a guy." He's like, you're not a big heel, so I want to see like how like what does your aggression look like? What do you show me? Like, make me believe. So okay, and I wrestled TJP that day, and I knew him from before from MLW. We wrestled, and he was in New Japan. We never wrestled each other there, and we never were on the same tour, but we just missed each other a bunch of times. But we knew each other, and we wrestled each other, like I said, in MLW. And I remember telling him like, "Hey man, I'm sorry in advance. Like, I have to. It's going to be kind of stiff, but like I have to." undo something that he didn't enjoy on Wednesday. So anyway, we had this little match, and Arn loved it, and he was like, "Hey, okay." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "I can easily work with that." And then a few weeks later, I wrestled Fit on my first loop of live events, and I was super nervous, again, he was the second producer that day that hated the match. I remember thinking like, "Oh no!" And then Fit came back and he loved it. We had such fun matches, and it was like so much of it would just be on the fly. It was so fun. I love wrestling Fit. One of the best wrestlers ever. He's so good, and just I don't know, just his instincts are second to none because none of it's like really planned. So he's just going off instinct. This guy, he's unbelievable.
Definitely one of the best, one of the greats, definitely. Terry Funk always says one of the best wrestlers ever fit Finley,
Really,
so it's
that's pretty funny.
yeah.
I mean, he's right, but that's so funny.
As far as, like, putting the Hart Dynasty together, were you excited for that? Because obviously Harry's gotta be your buddy, and
Of course.
Natalia, obviously.
Yeah, and my very first ever match is I'm a team with Harry against Teddy and his brother. So like now it's come full circle where now we're a tag team, but it's on SmackDown, it's on ECW. Eventually we're on Raw. We win the tag titles on Raw. We're on pay-per-views together. Like it's just crazy. It's you can't. If you told me that after my first match, I would never have believed you. Like there's no way. And then you know what? Maybe I was so naive when I was 15. I might have believed you, but if you told me that when I was 20, I wouldn't have believed you. I would be like, "No, I've seen a little bit now of this. I understand it doesn't." I would prefer it. It is a little story that I could write out like that. And me and TJ Wilson and Harry Smith go on to WWE and win the tag team titles managed by Natty. Yeah, that'd be perfect, but it's not going to happen that way. But then it did happen that way. So
Right.
it's very funny. It's like if you told 20-year-old me, 15-year-old me might have believed that, but 20, no way. So it just is funny that it does end up happening. It's crazy. I don't know. There's so much weird stuff that feels almost unexplainable sometimes. That a lot of things almost just happen. I don't know. Obviously, it doesn't, and it's all about like that preparation, meeting hard work, meeting the proper time. But it just happens. It seems a lot.
With that, as a fan, you're always like, "Man, that's awesome, you win the tag titles." Does that mean a lot to you guys? Like, tag team champions, they're doing something with us, we're getting a push. Does that mean a lot to you?
Huge. It means so much to me. It means and it should mean something to everyone, but it means that the company is saying, "Hey, like these guys are valuable. There's some either these guys are valuable, and we want them to be represented as such, or we see a lot in them, and we want you to also see that we see a lot in them, and this may help you, or whatever the mindset is." I never sat and actually discussed what the mindset, but definitely, it's definitely a compliment. It's someone saying, "Hey, like." Like, okay, you didn't actually pin the person and win this, but you did earn it. You didn't. I didn't earn it. I didn't earn it when I actually put Miz in a sharpshooter and he tapped out, but I did earn it by my work and the body of work and the work that we'd put in at that point. Somebody felt that we'd earned it, and so I did earn that title. I didn't earn it by actually making the Miz tap out, but we did earn those tag titles for sure, and it means a lot. It kind of, to me, it kind of gives like a little, at least maybe to like the 10-year-old me. Like if I'm 10-year-old me arguing wrestling, once I really get engulfed by wrestling and it takes over by the time I'm like 12, 13, at least like always, at least I could say, well, at least this guy has been a champion before or whatever. So like it kind of gives you like, at least it gives you like a little place in history. Like now in this title history, you're there forever. So it definitely means a lot.
When you guys are the champs, do you expect a long run or not really? You just don't really know.
Yeah, you don't really know, and I say this to talent a lot. When we won them, I try to go in with the mindset of like, okay, just enjoy this moment, the moment of winning them. Just enjoy that. It's always a cool moment, and just know that like, hey, even if the plan maybe is to have this for like 2 years, that might change and you might be losing it the next night. So like, I always try to like, especially when I win it later when I win the tag titles with Cesaro, I went in with the mindset of I thought we were losing right away the next night, right back to this was what I thought. And nobody told me that. And I just thought that, or then I was like, and I was totally cool with it because the Usos, they're awesome. I've always been a huge fan. I mean, whatever, when we end up losing a New Day, I'm totally cool with that too. So I went in with the mindset, especially that second time, the time with Cesaro, was like, okay, if we lose this the very next day, it's totally fine because it's happened now. So it's like I said, that little record book, whatever it is, like it's in there. It's good. It's a little validation that it's 5 years later for me. Felt like some validation. So now it's in there forever. If we lose these tomorrow, I'm fine. I'm cool.
And you and Cesaro, another great team, and obviously you and him beat the Usos. You guys won the tag titles and won it twice, really. But you
Yeah.
guys, another team is like, oh, where are these two guys coming from? They're from two different worlds, and then boom,
No.
awesome team with great chemistry.
Thrown together. It was weird. I mean, we wrestled a few times and we had great chemistry as opponents, but that doesn't mean you're going to have great chemistry as a tag team. Doesn't mean that being a tag team makes any sense. Even if you might have good chemistry as a team, if it doesn't really make any sense, like that doesn't mean the fans may not care. I mean, and just like you said, like we're both non-Americans from totally different parts of the world. But the fans, I think, felt for sure with Cesaro like he was underutilized. I was at least coming off that last little, not last, but I was coming off that NXT stuff, which not everyone had seen, but some eyeballs had seen, some people had seen it, and I was getting a little traction with that, with the 2 takeover matches, and then I'm paired with Cesaro just randomly. But we had a triple threat match with Dolph in Liverpool that I always kind of look back to and wonder, like, did that spark something in somebody's mind? Because we did, like, in that triple threat, we did a couple like inverted like tag moves, like not on purpose or whatever.
Yep.
And so I don't know, like, was that part of it? I don't know. But I just know that I saw a graphic on Sunday night or Monday morning on Twitter. It was a tag team gauntlet match, and it was all of a sudden I saw like myself and Cesaro beside each other, and I knew we were in a tag team the night before. So I was like, so we're beside each other. So I'm assuming we're the team here. Okay. And I remember we didn't talk a lot about like little spots and stuff that day. We just kind of like worked. It was fun, and we just had like an instant chemistry. And I think then the next day we were also a team, and we wrestled New Day. And then the next week, like we wrestle the Matadors on Superstars in Detroit. And I remember we come out, and Detroit is a pretty smart wrestling city. And we come out to Cesaro's music. When Cesaro came out, it was still like a pretty insane reaction. That for me, I was like, oh man, I was like, can I tag with this guy for the rest of my career? This is gonna be easy. It's gonna be so easy for me. It was so easy for me. He's definitely the quarterback. A lot of the times, putting a lot of things together. I'm that way too, but I have no problem letting someone else take charge. So like he was like the perfect tag partner for me at that point in my career. Myself and Harry, it was very cool because we're both coming up together and kind of experiencing WWE together and experiencing success in WWE together. Like Harry and I also have we're very proud of. It was a live event. It was the day after Christmas, but we had a singles match at MSG. I remember Johnny and Vince both had a lot of praise for. I was very proud of that because, first off, I knew what kind of matches I've had with Harry throughout these towns in Alberta, that I want to show that to these cities and to this wrestling world. And Owen and Brett wrestled each other at MSG, and I know Brett's wrestled Jim there, and there's all these cool Hart family things, and we've teamed with Brett. We've teamed with Brett at MSG. We did a 6-man tag, and then to wrestle each other in a singles match. It felt cool to have a proper singles match at MSG. It's the world's most famous arena, and to be able to say that you wrestled the guy that you started your career with in your very first match as your tag team partner, it's just awesome. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's awesome. And not to just talk about me, but for a second, I was at that 6-man and I was at WrestleMania 10. So I'm at all these shows that you're on. Crazy the way it worked out.
The 6-man was so funny because there was, I think, a tour in Europe going on. So some of the Nexus guys were there, and they sent the 3 to the MSG show. But then it's like me. So Nexus at that time is like outnumbering everybody, but it's like it's three guys. It's Tarver, I believe, Otunga and Heath,
If I remember correctly, yeah.
and then it's me, Natty, Harry, but also Brett, but also Jerry Lawler. Maybe some. I was like, yo, there's like six of there's 5-on-3 out here. Like the Nexus, it just was like that was. I remember saying that to Harry when we were out there, just like laughing to myself.
That was a good night though, especially for Brett. Obviously, a big appreciation, a big tribute to Brett.
Damn, he did the elbow up the second that night.
Yep.
Brett did the elbow up. I remember. I don't remember if he planned it or not. I honestly don't remember if he planned it or not. I remember like selling on the floor after tagging Brett. I remember looking up and I see him like hop and sit on the top rope, and I was like, he's really gonna do this elbow right now. Oh man. And it was awesome. It was so awesome. It just like it was so cool to be there, to be in that match. It was so cool. I have nothing but fond memories. We teamed with Brett a little bit in Germany too. That's where I sometimes get confused of who maybe the six guys, who the three Nexus guys were, because we did a tour in Germany where we wrestled against Nexus for a whole second half of a tour. So, and it was
Oh, I didn't realize that. Awesome.
six man tag with Brett. So it's funny, like I got to do some, like I said, some really cool stuff in my career, like team with Brett, wrestle Harry at MSG. We wrestled DX. We clothesline Vince at WrestleMania. Like just some awesome stuff that like 10-year-old me is losing his mind over, no doubt. Every day he's going crazy over it.
Now, as we hit the wind down, head towards the finish, I want to mention this to not just kind of brush over the NXT run. I love
Yeah.
when you were a heel in NXT. That was great. Feud with Neville was great. Feud with Sami Zayn was great. Love the Neville stuff. I love your little catchphrase, you being the sarcastic, a-hole and stuff. And you had a great run in NXT, not to kind of just overshadow that, but that was awesome.
No, and I really appreciate that. And I was channeling my inner Ted, for that run.
Nice.
And Natty was she's my wife at that time as well, but she's kind of playing the role of Ted's mom a little bit, of like I come in like the Tasmanian devil and cause all this stuff, and then she's like, no, he's okay, he's just having a bad day or whatever,
Right.
And trying to embarrassed, but trying to make excuses for my behavior. So it was so fun. That stuff was so fun. And using her as like the pawn in my matches was so fun and cool to, again, that creative process, and again being involved with like women's stuff. Like there's a little period right after I do the NXT stuff and before I team with Cesaro where I'm kind of managing Natty a little bit, and I'm in these like I'm out there for like Natty. It's so weird that when I first come back to Raw, it's I believe it's Layla versus Rosa Mendez, and Natty's managing Rosa, and I'm also out there like managing Natty, who's managing. It's real crazy. And I remember, so I pulled up I came out. That's the first time I come out on Raw with the headphones. I came out with the headphones and my phone, and I was like, I don't want to get in trouble if they see me watching YouTube or something. Like, so I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is this. So I sat on. No one told me this, but I go sit on the steps and I'm watching the Fatal 4-Way match on my phone on the network. So I knew like a worst case, I can't get in too much trouble because at least I'm watching the network. So,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like that. So my point so then I was in this weird like girl world. I kept saying I remember like pulling somebody's foot off, or like when Natty knocked Nikki Bella and I catch her, or like I managed it was the Total Divas versus the Divas at Survivor Series. Like, and I'm out there. It was just weird, cool. Like, again, but back to the point of like, yeah, I've always kind of had this weird, I didn't even realize maybe, but this weird connection to women's wrestling. I don't know. Because I mean, Natty's obviously did so much with them, but like same with like the Bellas and stuff, like Natty really trained them. So it's just very interesting how it all kind of ties in together.
You had a great 20-year career, obviously. Now, great run as a producer. But looking back, if somebody, let's say, wants to go on YouTube or maybe WWE Network on Peacock, someone's like, all right, I want to put in some Tyson Kidd. I want to put in some TJ Wilson. Who's some of your just your favorite or your best matches or just your maybe best memories?
And I meant to mention him when I just said like that we wrestled DX and Clothesline Vince, but also I have two matches. One is the longer one on Superstars. But two matches with Rey Mysterio, which like mean the world to me, especially that second one. It's on YouTube somewhere. I mean, at one point, there was some guy on there that had like 12 million views, but that guy got taken down not too long. I looked it up recently and wasn't there. The match is there, but that guy's crazy number one wasn't there. But yeah, like against Ray or against like you mentioned Neville or Sammy, that Fatal 4-Way, I'm very proud of it. Myself, Cesaro, and Dolph triple threat from SmackDown in Liverpool. I love that match. With stuff with Cesaro against New Day, with stuff with the Usos, with Cesaro and with Harry. We had a pay-per-view. We had a match on pay-per-view at Money in the Bank. Myself and her against the Usos, but it was like not very long. I think we had like 5 or 6 minutes maybe. We wrestled the next night on well, not on Raw, but at Raw. We wrestled on Superstars, but we had like 15 minutes. I remember Brett and Pat Patterson coming and finding us after, because I think that's the day they're setting up the SummerSlam stuff with the Nexus. So Brett's there that day, and it's Brett and Pat came and found us. I remember, you know, we all had the same mindset, all four of us, all six, Natty and Tamina too. It was funny that now they're the women's tag team champions, but also because the six of us had the same thought process. We wanted to show them the match that they missed out on from the pay-per-view the night before if we'd had 15 minutes instead of 6 minutes. And I don't think that's a bad attitude to have. We didn't do it in a negative way. We did it, I believe, in a positive way. And I remember Brett and Pat coming up to us and just like really with a lot of praise, and like they loved that match. It's on Superstars with the Usos, I think maybe like June or July 2010. Trent Beretta, another one of my favorite opponents, had so many. Kurt Hawkins and I had one real good match on NXT. It was very good. Sometimes I come across like random matches that either I don't remember as much, or the match where her and I win the tag titles is a lot of fun. The crowd's like really hot, and Big Show and Miz did a hell of a job for us, and that whole like finishing sequence, I'm very, very proud of, and a lot of it's Miz's call, but it was some great stuff. I feel like that still holds up.
As far as yourself and Workhorse Fitness and everything, where can everybody get it, reach it, and just give us all the information on that, just to get the plugs out there?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Workhorse Fitness Products. The website is workhorsefitness.com. And, I have that's mostly pre-workout, BCAAs, fat burner, protein, and apparel, clothing. We're always working on stuff, but a lot of our stuff at one point, like a lot of our clothing stuff was like coming from New York. So like during this pandemic, like a lot of it was so hard to get certain things, and I get it. It's totally fine. But so yeah, it's cool. It's just been growing, and it's just a learning process and kind of figuring out day by day, and then my Instagram is at TJ Wilson 711, and my Twitter is at TJ Wilson. I had to add the 711 because I couldn't get TJ Wilson on Instagram, but 711 is my birthday, so it just happens that it's a pretty easy number people know. So
I thought you were going to say you love those 7-Eleven hot dogs. That's what
there's a period of time as a kid that going to 7-Eleven at lunch and getting a big bite was definitely the thing to do. So yes.
So what's next for you? What you getting on the road again? As WB's getting on the road again?
Yeah. I'm getting ready to head back on the road in July. I think everybody's pretty excited about it. I've not been on a plane in over a year, which is bizarre coming from my world, but I think we're all looking forward to it. I think everybody's excited. I think the fans are excited. I think we're excited to have the fans back. It's gonna be cool, and it's just gonna be fun to see. But it's like this. I feel like this time that we've had this last year, like, is a time that I'll never forget. It was like some of the most special time, and we'll see what like the future brings. But like we're like, it's like we almost forget that. For like how crazy in WWE, how crazy our lives were before this pandemic. Like now we've just been in Florida for a year. And from my house, like before the tapings were 90 minutes, then it moved to another place that was 90 minutes, then moved to another place that was an hour. Now I moved to a place that's 30 minutes from my house. So like we're about to get, and I know I'm not, I know other people are flying in weekly, but we're about to go onto that crazy where like you're in different time zones for production meetings, and Raw locally or SmackDown locally will start, when we're on the West Coast, it's 5 o'clock. For the last year straight, it's all been, we're in Eastern time zone this whole time. It's all been 8 o'clock.
Good
We're
point.
about to move. It's one day it's going to be 5, one day it's going to be 8. And we have to like, we were at like such, we had it down to such a system. We almost have to I feel like everyone has to almost be reminded of these types of things going forward. But
Crazy.
we're
That's
excited.
crazy.
Everyone's excited for sure. So
Like I
there's
said, but it's
that.
awesome to get back out there, get back on the road finally.
Yeah, yeah, and just man, I can only imagine. I know we saw it at WrestleMania, and you see it. I'm a big NBA fan. I see it watching the playoffs or watching UFC. You just see the fans, those sold out fans, those arenas that have the sold out fans going crazy. They're so excited to be back. So it's a mutual partnership.
Yeah, it's awesome to finally get the fans back
Yeah,
and
man.
get things rolling again. But TJ, thank you so much for all the
No
time
problem.
tonight. Really
No,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. It was a fun chat. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.